Well, hello, everybody. Welcome back to Backstage Bimbo TV. It's me, Allison Rouse, your most notorious groupie, and author of We've Got Tonight, The Life and Times of Notorious Groupie, me. That's right, folks. Back here for another Wednesday Rocky Talkie. Hope everybody's been having a great week. Thank you so much for all the love and support, you guys. Truly, it means the absolute world to me. I can't express how much I'm enjoying getting to know all the people I've got to interact with from this channel. So keep that love and support coming. And for all you hater fans, thanks. Even when you press that dislike button, I get noticed. So, hey hater fans, love ya. So this week, we're going to talk about the difference between the hair metal bands and the thrash bands. Not just the guys in them, but kind of the lifestyle and the attitude taken towards rock and roll. And who's the better musician? We're about to get good. And again, I'm drinking a Shades, my favorite fucking local. These guys are available in some other states, so look for them. They have the #1 sour 4 years running. Marcio is one of the best brewmasters. I love everybody over there at Shades. They are the coolest people. So everybody, if you find anything by these guys, always get it. Their sours, their flavors. My favorite is their Taco Tuesday. Absolutely 100. Oh, and they have a Tom Kaw, like a Thai light crispy beer. But they have great lagers and some really good dank IPAs or crispy IPAs, depending on how you like it. And no, nobody's sponsoring me. This is just out of pure love because I love these guys so much. I'm friends with the guys over there. And I absolutely love them so much. So I never get paid for promoting any of my local stuff. I'm not sponsored. I just love these guys to death. I'm really lucky to have a killer local brew scene that supports each other and is there and really awesome. So love the positivity. So, all right, guys. Now this week, like I said, we are going to be talking about the difference between thrash and hair metal. Because we lived in a time where, when I started being groupie, it was 85, and all the rock and roll was big hair, makeup, spandex, sex, drugs, pretty women, and that was the lyrics. It was fun. It was free. It was, oh, wait, I forgot to say cheers, big ears. Everybody, grab your beers, kick up your feet, and let's have a little rocky talkie. Cheers, big ears. I'm kind of excited to talk about this week's subject because, like I said, we really did live in a time where we got to see all kinds of music come to life. And I got to live during a time where it was the transition from hair metal being on top of the world to thrash taking it over. And it was really actually cool and interesting to watch in this change in rock and roll. Because, and people who were diehard hair metal fans were diehard, and people who were thrash, and it was like brought head to head, like butting up against going, yeah, our models can kick your models' asses, or our band can kick your band's asses, sorry. That Models was taken from a Sex Pistol advert. I think it was like in Vogue and stuff, way back in the reunion tour days, so that's where I got that saying. So anyway, hair metal, we needed something different. Hair metal for years and years and years, just like any type of trend, because it's all trends, and not everybody from every trend lasts. So hair metal was getting kind of stale, kind of boring, kind of expected, kind of cheesy, kind of Spinal Tap. And it was just repetitive. And like I said, it was fun. It was sex, drugs, laughter, nothing serious. But problem is, it's just like with the fans of like boy bands or Taylor Swift, they get older. And they want something more to their music. They want something richer and more defined. And even like backstage, the attitude of hair metal was very different as were to the attitude of the thrash metal guys. So it was very awesome to see kind of the switcheroo and how different and everything. Because, like I said, hair metal was meant to be just fun and laughter and bubbly and cheesy and makeup and stuff. But as you get older, and it just started becoming such a big thing, a big trend, that finally it was so TJ maxed out. You know what I mean? All the trends from Vogue trickled down over the few years, and they were just signing anybody out of LA. If you had a band and a blonde lead singer, you had a record deal. Didn't mean that they were good, and that was the problem. It just became this big show that was repetitive and got boring. So when thrash came along with the lyrics, they became like, most people go to college and start reading Jack Kerouac or discovering more about politics and more things about life and more thoughtful or intellectual endeavors. And for me, thrash was that transition, because the topics of the music were so different, so real, so personal, so hardcore. Not like, suicidal tendencies was talking about the angst of the kids. Metallica was talking about not about coke abuse or the wars and stuff like that. Megadeth was talking about politics, and so that being their lyrics and their attitude, it really did carry over backstage. Like backstage with the hair bands, oh yeah, it's going to be wild, free, it's going to be crazier. Like, you've got Gene Simmons taking pictures of chicks on toilets, even hotel maids, and all kinds of girls just doing whatever they can, showing their tits to get backstage. And it was wilder, more hedonistic, and more Sodom and Gomorrah. As to where hanging out with the thrash guys, yeah, you hooked up with one guy, you kind of felt that chemistry, and you had real conversations about life and politics. And there was still laughter. It wasn't like all serious, because we're all rock and roll, but it was a totally different mind frame. It was like me going to college and discovering the natural steps of my next intellectual phase of life, just like anybody does. So even backstage, that was a huge difference. It was very, 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 I don't want to keep saying prevalent, but it was very obvious the difference between hanging out with Cinderella or David Lee Roth or Motley Crue as to being with Metallica or Megadeth or Anthrax or Testament. You know what I mean? There was a bit more, less objectification of women with the thrash guys. Like, they saw the groupies different. They didn't see 5 different women and go, I'm going to have an orgy. Okay, maybe Metallica did with Tub Tarts, but really, that was the 80s. So, but even then, when we were with Metallica, we didn't know that was going on for a good fucking 9 months. And that tour was for 2 years, 3 years. We were kept away from it because we were so different with the guys, as to where hair metal would just mix all it in together and call it a basket of whores. Thrash didn't do that. And it kind of made me feel happy because, we were a little bit more protected. We were a little bit more chivalry happening. It was very awesome. And like I said, it was intellectually more stimulating to be around the thrash guys. I know I talk about all the wild and party times that I've had with Metallica and Megadeth, and all my vlogs are sex, drugs, and rock and roll. But there was a lot more to it. And a lot of people, I just figured, you're going to be bored. Because we talked about the same things that people do. We talked about, who was running for president at the time, or who was winning the Stanley Cup, or just things that were non-rock and roll and non-sex. So that was huge. Not for me, thrash was kind of the more intellectual and starting to, be an adult type of rock and roll. It's not angry. People think it's angry and it's crazy and just misplaced. And no, actually, it's talking about things that are real, That's what thrash always was to me. It wasn't hostile, let's get in the mosh pit. It was like, yeah, these lyrics really make sense and like really bring out a different thought in my head than just sex. Which, with these conversations, made the sex even better, made the bands even better, and the musicians were better in the thrash bands. I'm sorry, there are some great musicians that came out of some of the hair bands, like George Lynch. A few that came out of the hair bands. No, there really are talented musicians, but there was more of them for me, especially with like drummers and guitar players in thrash, and trying to keep that rhythm, trying to keep that pace, and physically just going at it on stage as musicians. It was 10 times harder because they're thrashing around a hell of a lot more, you know what I mean? So it was, for me, the evolution of intelligence as far as being a groupie in rock and roll was definitely thrash, because like I said, not just the subject matter, but they were better musicians. Like, let's put Ricky Rocket up against Vinnie Paul. Come on now. Dead winner right there, Vincent Paul, all the way, 100%. Like I said, it's just, for me, the musicians were better musicians. And some of the best bands, look at the best bands selling out arenas at this time from our era. Metallica, the number one band of our generation, bigger than any band in the world. Thrash band. Megadeth, still selling out arenas, still selling out, doing albums. I mean, Testament, still touring, still having a great time. A lot of the bands that, were thrash are the biggest bands in the world right now. Pantera. When rock was dead, who was holding up metal? Metallica and Pantera. Not Motley Crue. Not Rat. Fuck no Poison. It's like Bobby Dahl said. And this kind of defines hair metal to me. Bobby Dahl said to me the second time I was hanging out with Poison during the Escape Club when they were all at the same hotel. Bobby Dahl was like, I never wanted to be a great musician. I just wanted to be a rock star. And that's what you kind of see, like in Decline of Western Civilization Part 2, that whole LA wanting to be a rock star was what defined hair metal for me. As to where the thrash guys wanted to be better musicians, better singers. And it does take a lot more to sing thrash. I mean, you think Phil Anselmo or James Hetfield or Dave Mustaine have it easy on their voices? No. They have to maintain, and they have grown as musicians more than hair metal did, because by definition, hair metal is in this one little box. As to where thrash kind of defined itself and made its own boundaries, which are ever expanding. So that for me, I tend to be like, I love all kinds of music, and I'm not like a hardcore thrash head. I'm not into, the Northern European, Swedish death metal and stuff like that. But I just tend to think that the thrash musicians that came from our generation tend to have better musicians and more relevant lyrics. So that's just kind of my preference, I had an ex ask me one time, a normal guy that I was dating, he's like, why did you ever like thrash? And when I gave him that explanation, he was like, really? He's like, not because you were angry or misfits or anything like that. I'm like, no. When it comes to metal, even though thrash and metal were headbutting and we were all like parking lot fights, fuck you big hair spandex wearing lipstick guys. And, fuck you tight jean wearing little t-shirt boys, whatever, So even though that was going on, metalheads in general are loving and accepting of other metalheads, and we will have each other's back even if we don't like your music. We still got you down in Dark Alley. Don't worry. So, that's always been the cool thing about rock and roll metal, is that we have always been a troop, a gypsy clan, a camaraderie, it's been a family, whether you're in the parking lot for the pre-show waiting to get to your seat or be squished up against the front rail, or you're backstage with the boys. It was always one big family from the front to the back of the stage, no matter what. But when it came down to it, the thrash boys are always going to be the daddies for me. in my opinion. But there you guys go. There's a little comparison as to the thrash boys versus the hair metal boys. Because a lot of people, it did. Thrash took over the world and kicked hair metal to the Spinal Tap curb. They did. That's why you didn't see Motley Crue playing tons of shows or doing tons of albums, and you saw Rat die out, and like LA Guns and all the bands, nobody cared about him. Nobody wanted to hear him. Nobody was impressed with him. We decided that musicians is what impressed us. So, hope you guys enjoyed this Rocky Talkie. I know not everybody's going to like this because I do love hair metal, but I just am more of a thrash kind of girl because of the intelligence of the lyrics that went behind it. So, there you guys go. Thank you so much again for all the love and support. Keep those conversations coming because I get the best ideas from you guys of what to do on these Rocky Talkies and for things in the future. So thank you guys so much. Again, don't forget to hit the like button, hit my bells, hit the share button, and subscribe. All right, guys, we will see you on Sunday for some more cocktails and rocktails. Cheers, big ears.